what quite interesting to learn, interesting to read more about Jesus and more about history of Jesus. And then, I look into the YouTube, even the BBC documentary, they mention about Jesus was in India, Jesus will learn Buddhism, and BBC documentary you can see now. And there is a lot of informations I got from different people, even though I asked my friend in the Christian priest friends also. Some of them don't like to answer, some of them don't like to hear the story. And then even in Europe also, when I go to the Europe, a lot of priests, they ask me, And then when I visit to the different places and Christians, because I want to learn, I'm not questioning, but I want to learn things, it is true or not. So I ask many people, they are not accepting. But even though, like in Europe also, but this kind of books, like history of the Jesus, what Jesus was his Buddhist, but you cannot find, I think it's a ban, this kind of books, even though in Europe also. But they translated to this book almost 34 language. So I got more interesting, and then I look into the history. It can be possible because when you look into the map, and you look into the the history of like Jesus' birth in Jerusalem, and then age of 17 he left, so he disappeared. So where he was, I mean, during that time, people used to say he's traveling to India, traveling to, it can be possible because it's, Jerusalem to Iran, Iraq, and then Afghanistan. And then from Afghanistan, we are very close, like Gilgit and Skarzo, and then you can reach in Afghanistan also, because Afghanistan, during that time, because Buddha was 2,500 years before, Jesus was 2,200 years before, Christians, the Buddhism. So it can be possible, even though Ladakh is one of the, learning Buddhism, even though, he said, the book mentioned, they're saying Jesus was in a Himis monastery. And then I got more interested because now when I look into the history of Himis, but history of Himis was 700 and 800 years old, but when I went to look into the Himis monastery and then see and then history on all those things, and then I got more interesting to look in the very old texts of Buddha's teaching, some of the writers right from the lamas, the texts, and they're mentioning that they're saying is the Himis there is called kotsang. You have to work 2 hours or 1.5 hours on that more further. There's and that place. The books mentioning they used to have almost 700 monks studying many years, even though from Tibet also they're coming for study. Now you can't see it, but that time there's not they don't have kind of temple, but they do have kind of cave. It can be possible, but just come here, join with the monks, and study and learn yogis, practice shamatha and all those things during his on the cross during the death, and then shamatha practice and all those things. I think can be possible. I'm not exactly say Jesus was in Ladakh, but can be possible because when you look into the history, when you look into the history of Jesus, history of Buddhism, history of the world map, history of the all those things, Buddha can the Jesus may be possible can he learned Buddhism during the time, and then even though you can look into the history of the Jesus, you cannot find the almost 8 or 9 years where he was. So and then when he went back to Jerusalem, and then he go, I don't know, some of people say he died after 2-3 years, I'm not sure. And then the Bible, he doesn't got much time to teach. So and then these things I keep asking even the Christian friends about the history of the Jesus, because I'm learning things. So it's quite interesting. It can be possible. I'm Lama Chogil. I'm from Ladakh, northern part of India, in a very cold desert place. So I birthed here. I audience age of 7 in Spituk Monastery. Buddhism is not a religion, what I believe. Buddhism is daily life practice. Buddhism, we don't accept creator. We don't believe any judgment. You are the master. You are the decision maker. So Buddha himself, he said, everything what you do is in your hands. The Buddhism was like 2500 years before Buddha came, and after that the rules, Ashoka is one of the Buddhism rulers, Ashoka king. Periods of that, I think it's 4 or B century or 4 or 3rd, I'm not really exactly sure. The Buddhism was spread into the Kashmir and from Ladakh, and then the Silk Road in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Gilgit, even though in more further, like Russians, like Kyrgyzstan, Turkestan, those area, Buddhism was spread on this area. And then of course, there is one of the great scholar from Kashmir also. Kashmir used to be a Buddhist country. So now there's no more Buddhists. But even though like Gilgit, even though Yogin, Skarzo, but they are also in Pakistan. And there used to be one of the Shila Takshi, one of the big university, and many years before. One is in, still you can see one of the like this place in Pakistan. In Afghanistan still you can find Burmese Buddhists and Buddha, and then there's so many caves, so many monasteries still they are finding. So yeah, and the Buddhism was studied very early than Tibet in Ladakh. So because of the Ladakh was a church center from Central Asia, coming from Afghanistan, coming from China, Xinjiang, coming from Tibet, coming from India, coming from, Ladakh was a small kingdom before 1834. So it is a small kingdom. So Buddhism was already there before spread to neighbor country. There's Ashoka was, there is, I heard, but I never been that place, but there is a place he made, all religious, gathering. Yes, that is, I heard, but I never been to that place. On course future I will go and visit to see and then look for more further study and all those things. And because one thing is from one of the great scholar from Kashmir, one of the Nalanda student, he was very famous on that time. The Buddhism is kind of mind science. Ignorance and desire and attachment. These things are very strong in our human beings. So of course we have to fight with. Of course we have to have a limited. Everything's what you do, so you have to balance yourself. Those desire and attachment and ignorance, your life will go to wrong directions. Yes, I think first time when 1992, I was in Korea, and one of the priests, he showed me the books is translated into Korean language, and he mentioned about Jesus was in India, Jesus was in Kashmir, and Jesus died in Kashmir. Jesus was in Ladakh. He becoming Buddhist, and he learned so many things about the Buddhists and all those things. That is first time what I heard, what I saw. And then I said, it's not really true. I mean, I didn't believe those things. And then when I look into the history, because I got more interesting, because when he said he was in Ladakh, he was in his monastery. So I got more interesting about this story.
You start to question yourself.
Yeah, I start to question myself. I have to, think about more about historically, geographically, about the Christian religions, about the Buddhist religions, and then we went back to the history about Jesus, history about Buddha, history of religious, history of how the Jesus was traveling. So it's quite interesting. I got more interesting, and I got read more books about Jesus. Now, latest books I read, Lost Year of Jesus, and it's quite interesting. But we cannot say that is true, but we cannot say that is not true also, because when you look into the history about Jesus, and when you look at about the history of Buddha, when you look at about the religious history, it can be possible. I cannot say exactly, yes, that is, Jesus was here, Ladakh, Jesus was in India, Jesus was in Kashmir, he came to learn Buddhism. Yes, and then, of course, Christian believe that Jesus was disappeared, Jesus was crossed, this, and all the what they believe, what the history, story about the Jesus. But and then now in Kashmir, when the books mentioning he came back to Kashmir, he died in Kashmir. Even though you can see in the graves for the Jesus those things. Even though I saw some of the photos, very 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 old photo, but that is I really don't believe in those things. But the books, the history, they're showing, they're saying that Jesus came back and they just died in Kashmir. You can see the grave of Jesus. Yes. I visited many Christian, very old, especially Catholic, monks. They're really, really, really great practitioner, great followers of the Jesus. But there are very many similarity I found very close with the Buddhism. So that may possible, he came India and then he learned from master of the teachings of Buddha. So probably it's very similar way of practice, way of living in a monastery. So it's very close. Can be, similarity, but he just learned from the Buddha. Of course, we do practice. It depends on the schools. It depends on the school. Which school are you going to go? Like my school is mostly in the learning and debate and teachings, more study. But some of the school they're more focusing in yogis practice, and especially of course yogi practice is also means all the monks mostly they do yogi practice and meditation and all technique. What kind of mind and like body, mind, speech, what kind of, that is not the Buddha is teachings like Mahayana, like Tantra is not for show for the other people. It's for practice for yourself, the technique, how to breathe, how to balance your all those yogis teachings. So that is It's quite similar with meditations.
Jesus?
Yes.
Because it's so similar.
Yeah, it's so very similar. What I
When you
saw.
read the Bible and everything, it's so many ideas is the same.
Yeah, it's very close. Actually, I saw it also. You know, when I visit, I mentioned earlier, and then it's very close. I mean, it can be possible, but he learned many things from the Buddhists.